Jordyn Tyson is back for 2025, probably, but who's going to be lining up across from him?
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Shout out my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks to all of you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return. New customers, place $5. You will get started with $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the show. Apologize for the delay. Thought that, if I get a little bit of sleep, maybe my voice will get better. That is not the case. Still dealing with a cold. I got to get myself a flu shot or whatever I got to do at this point. So apologies in advance for the raspiness of my voice. We are officially in transfer portal season. Now, ASU is going to be in an interesting spot because they're competing for the national championship, just like we all predicted in the offseason. They've lost some players already to the transfer portal. They've made 2 additions, but they still got a lot of work to do for a roster that's facing a lot of turnover. In my opinion, no bigger need on this team than is at wide receiver. Now, keep in mind, just about every position could need some more help. And we're going to start the show by taking a look at the guys who are returning versus the guys who are leaving. Then we're going to take a look at the incoming recruiting class, which will include the current transfers. And then we break it down at the end. Here's who's replacing who. Here's the positions of greatest need. We're going to start with wide receiver, and we'll get to the other positions. Wide receiver, spoiler alert, for the end of the show, is the biggest need on this team. I don't think it's close. There is some anticipation, I suppose you could call it, that ASU will be a much more pass-happy team next year. You're losing Cam Skattebo, the people's running back. You're in a situation where you do have some running back depth. And, you've got quite a few guys. Kyson Brown, Raleek Brown, Jason Brown, Alton McCaskill are all returning as of now. That's going to be placing you in a really good situation to, at a minimum, just attack the run game with some kind of committee. But wide receiver, you're losing some order. You can put them however you want. Xavier Guillory, Melkon Stovall, Troy O'Mary. Oh my goodness. Troy O'Mary. We're going to start over. Jake Smith. And goodness, I definitely, I do have this in front of me, and it would help if I just used it. Guillory, O'Mary, Stovall, Jake Smith. That's a hefty blow to your wide receiver room. And ASU has to find a way to get over that. Good news, Jordyn Tyson is back. Tyson is the best receiver on this football team by a mile. He's going to be a key instrument to be able to move the ball through the air. Who is going to replace all of those guys? Right now, you have Malik McClain is returning after redshirting in the regular season and potentially having a big impact through the remainder of the postseason, whether that is 1 more game or 4 more games, 3 more games, 3 more games maximum for ASU. We'll see what he can do. This is a good time for him to advertise himself. Good news, tight end is going to be just fine next year. You do lose Marqueston Douglas, but Shimon Mateer is back for you. You've got your pass catchers there. Jordyn Tyson, Shimon Mateer, those are 2 of your top 3 options from this past year. If you include Cam Skattebo in there, you're in a good place to maintain the pass catcher for Sam Levitt, who is also going to be back in 2025. You are losing Trenton Bourget, one of the key backups here, but Jeff Sims is expected to return to be the primary backup for this team. And then you've got some other guys coming in who we'll take a look at later. Offensive line, going to be interesting. You're losing some starters, but you're also retaining some key starters. You will be bringing back Kyle Scott, Josh Atkins, and Ben Coleman. You could argue that those are three of your best players on the offensive line from this past year. Undoubtedly, you are losing the best player on the offensive line with Lee Fotanu out of eligibility. Other guys like Emmett Bully and Maxi Ioniker are also out of eligibility. They will be moving on. Those are guys who had huge roles this year, including Ioniker, who was your starting right tackle for the vast majority of the season. I don't know if he got benched at any point in time. Defensively, there's some changes up front, and there's some key guys leaving in the backfield. But you do have some really strong positions that are returning. Edge rusher, not so much. You're losing Prince Dorbaugh and Elijah O'Neal, two of your most important pass rushers this year. O'Neal, who had a breakout season, and Dorbaugh, who has a chance to be a next-level player, but he's got to get healthy and he's got to test out of this world during the offseason. Good news is you are bringing back Clayton Smith, who, in my opinion, is the best pass rusher on this team, even though he's really gone quiet after the first month of the year. I have a feeling that he's going to be able to rebound in these playoffs, but he's also going to, once again, be one of your starters next year. Justin Watley is also returning. He is more than likely the starter opposite of Clayton Smith, but you are losing two of your top three pass rushers. That's not what you would call easy. Linebacker, or no, before we get to linebacker, defensive tackle. You're in a really good spot there. Now, you are losing Jeff Clark. And Jeff Clark was one of your main starters for a group that had a lot of rotation because of how deep it was. And you're bringing back three of your top four guys, including CJ Fight, Zach Swanson, and Jigabrich Kongaika. You are in a good spot with the defensive tackle spot. You are also in a great spot even with the linebacker room. You are not losing very many guys, and you have to be happy with where you're at. You are losing Caleb McCullough. That is a huge blow for this team. He ended up being one of the best players on this defense. I would argue, I truly would, he was one of your five most important players on the Sun Devils this year. Any side of the football. He stepped up when Keyshawn Elliott was banged up, / when Keyshawn Elliott had to deal with some BS targeting suspension. McCullough was fantastic this year. In fact, the last 2 years, he's put together really good seasons. Losing him sucks. But you are returning the vast majority of that room. Your top three guys, or three of your top four, you're bringing back Keyshawn Elliott, Cyrus Viaseu, Jordan Crook. You've also got Tate Romney will be returning, who is one of the key players from the 2023 season and is someone that I will continue to bang the drum for, is a very underrated guy on this defense. The secondary, that's an interesting spot to talk about. You are losing LT Welsh. And Welsh, goodness gracious, the controversy was there for him. You can look it up on your own time. But he was a good football player, and down the stretch, he turned into one of your key pieces in the secondary as your third guy. He's gone. You have Javen Robinson and you have Keith Abney returning. Those were your top two corners. You could not have asked for a better situation than those two to return. You also have Cole Martin coming back, who missed the vast majority of the season due to injury, but he's going to be lining up in your nickel. So there's your top three guys. You've got Javen Robinson, Keith Abney, and Cole Martin, who are going to be your two outside corners and your nickel, respectively. That's phenomenal. But you are losing depth. You are losing LT Welsh. You lost Keontae Bradley to the transfer portal. There are several other guys who are going to be missing from this team. You're going to be leaning on a lot of youth at this position. Pretty much all of your freshmen who were able to redshirt this year such as Tony Lewis and Cuba, Chris Johnson, who else? Plas Johnson, and I already said Tony and Cuba. I have it in my notes. I can pull it up. Give me 1 second. I will get it here. And Rodney Bimage. So you've got the depth that's just really young depth, guys who didn't see the field this year. Safety. Good news. You're bringing back your 2 starters with Xavier Alford and Miles Rouser. Really, really, really bad news. Shamari Simmons is gone. And Simmons was your team MVP last year, and he's another guy that I would put very high on this team in terms of the importance that he had for the majority of the season. He was able to move into the nickel role when Cole Martin was down with injury. I have sung his praises all year long, and for very good, very legitimate reasons. He's gone. Quite frankly, I would say he is the second biggest loss on this team after Cam Skattebo. That is tough, man. That is tough. You're also losing Kamari Wilson, who was he didn't see the field this year. He was one of your key backups who was a body back there, but he didn't see the field, unfortunately. He's going to be entering the transfer portal. There was an opportunity for him to have a bigger role next year, especially with Simmons being gone. So you have a lot of good players returning. You have a lot of your key players returning that could help you run it back next year. But there is no doubt that you are losing some very important starters and a lot of depth. It's going to be a huge transition for the Sun Devils team next year. The good news is they were able to start masking some of these losses. I'm really excited about this recruiting class. They have 2 key transfers that are coming in. Arizona State is not done either. Let's go ahead and talk about that coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's that time of the year. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT sports coverage of the college football playoff begins on December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. Leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs are battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. Of course, I have a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Okay, big losses, big returners. Recruiting class that we could see similar to this year and in 2022, honestly. You had, or not 2023. In Kenny Dillingham's first 2 recruiting classes, you had a lot of guys that redshirted and took some time to develop behind the scenes. You could see that again this year. You could also see a handful of guys have really, really big roles for this team. None more so than your 2 4-star players that are coming in. We start with Cam Dyer. Cam Dyer, what do you do with him? He played quarterback at in New Mexico, at Las Cruces. Unbelievable season. He's one of the best players in the state of New Mexico at the quarterback spot. But guess what? Hines Ward, the wide receivers coach, recruited him to play, you guessed it, wide receiver. And Cam Dyer is very excited for that transition. Kenny Dillingham has also said that Dyer is going to start the spring ball in the quarterback room. Okay, what are we doing with him? Honestly, I don't care. He is a specimen as an athlete, over 6'4". The dude flies around the field. He's a good quarterback. I'm really curious to see how he looks as a receiver. But this is a 4-star player. It's your highest recruited player as well. I'm beyond excited for Cameron Dyer. He is obviously the gem of this recruiting class for a big reason. We also have to talk about AJ Aya. It might be AJ Ia. Again, if you know which one it is, please leave a comment so I can start pronouncing it correctly, because I think I've been pronouncing it incorrectly for a while now. He's going to be in a situation where the tight end spot, it's pretty much secure with Shimon Mater. ASU didn't really rotate guys in this past year. I'm curious if Jaden Fortier, who was your 4-star freshman tight end from this year's class, will see the field a lot more next year. He didn't get to see the field this year because he was recovering from an ACL surgery. He is potentially your number 2 tight end with AJ Aya or AJ Ia. Again, please let me know if you guys know which one it is. He's going to be in there as well. He might be tight end 2. He's no worse than tight end 3. Great depth at the position, 2 really young guys, and a great veteran. The rest of this recruiting class, I don't know how many guys we're going to see on the field immediately. They're bringing in 1 running back with Demarius Robinson. They are bringing in 5 receivers, and that will include Dyer. It also includes Corey Butler, who is someone people are excited about because he played at Centennial Corona out in California. I mean, ASU has a pretty good track record from that school, including friend of the podcast, Brandon McGee, but also Vontez Burfict and Will Sutton. There's some hype around this kid. Oh, at quarterback, I forgot to mention Michael Butter Tollefson is going to be at this program as well. He will compete for, honestly, he might be quarterback 2. Jeff Sims, he's a great veteran. We all know what he is as a quarterback. You've got some walk-ons who are returning, like Navi Bruzon, an Arizona high school legend. After that, if you include Cam Dyer, he might be quarterback 2. If you want to place him at receiver, Tollefson is going to battle Jeff Sims to be quarterback 2 for this team. And it's going to be a really exciting battle, honestly. I am very interested to see who will be Sam Levitt's primary backup. Offensive line, they're bringing in a lot of guys. You got 6 guys, including 4 offensive tackles. ASU has not really recruited the offensive tackle position over the last handful of years. So to see them attack that spot as best as they have over the last several years, it's really exciting, especially with the guys you're losing. You've got 2 linebackers coming in, Isaiah Iosefa and Tristan Bacon, phenomenal last name. They are absolutely getting redshirted. There are 3 defensive backs coming in, 1 corner, 2 safeties. You definitely needed that safety depth with the guys who are leaving. Your corner, who's going to be coming in, I would anticipate, that he is going to be looking at a redshirt season, pending on what happens with the guys in front of him. But again, you have 4 redshirt freshmen that are going to be looking at a very, very serious role and playing time. Last one I want to mention is your special teamer, Lee Maano. Like, if I mispronounce that as well, I apologize. Please let me know for these pronunciations if I butcher them. He is listed as a special teams player. If I'm to be correct, I want to say he's going to be a linebacker for you as well. So good recruiting class. You've got some guys who are going to be key depth pieces. You could see some of these guys start, but I'd really say Cam Dyer, AJ Aya, and Michael Tollefson are going to have the best opportunities to see the field the most consistently next year. They have started with their transfer class, and that's where I want to really focus some attention here, because the transfer portal is going to be where I believe ASU is going to find a lot of their replacements for some of the guys on this team. They brought in wide receiver Noble Johnson from Clemson, and they brought in kicker Jesus Gomez from Eastern Michigan. Gomez, he is your starting kicker. It didn't matter if ASU brought back all 3 of their kickers or if none of the 3 are back next year. Jesus Gomez is your starter. Also, really, really funny domino effect here. I don't know if you guys saw this. Jesus Gomez kicked for Eastern Michigan. If you remember, Eastern Michigan beat ASU in 2022, which ultimately led to Herm Edwards being fired. Well, that was Jesus Gomez's first game where he kicked a field goal, and he went 3 for 3. So he goes 3 for 3 to help Eastern Michigan beat ASU. Herm Edwards is fired at the end of that game. Sean Aguano is promoted as the interim head coach. He wins 2 more games to get ASU to a 3-9 record, which leads to Kenny Dillingham becoming the head coach, and the rest is history. So Jesus Gomez has a huge impact in the history of Arizona State Sun Devils football, and now he gets to play for the team. So tip your cap and go ahead and get some of that NIL ready to hand out to him, because he is already deserving of a lot of love from Sun Devils fans for what he's done and what he's going to do. I think he's definitely a solution. And then Noble Johnson. He right now might be wide receiver 2, because we just don't know what we're getting with Malik McClain yet. And McClain could be a beast. We saw his only catch of the season was a 41-yard reception from Sam Levitt in the Big 12 championship game. And again, he's got at least one more game, the maximum of 3 games for this postseason to advertise himself, and then he'll have to try out in spring ball. Noble Johnson, I mean, he's also got a lack of experience with the Clemson Tigers. He was there 2 years, didn't really see the field too much. There's a chance that he is able to overtake Malik McClain to be wide receiver 2. We'll see what ends up happening. That's also a position that I think is going to get a lot of work. I mentioned that at the top of the show, and we're talking about that next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, of course, is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action as the season is winding down with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers bet $5 and you can get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. So you can bet on any of the games that are happening this weekend. You can take a live bet as well on whatever's going on. If you get that hunch in the middle of a game and you want to place that live bet, I've got great news for you, because FanDuel's their app, they're going to have everything you need to capitalize on that hunch. Open it up. You can see the latest stats, view a live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're placing your bets, which will give you that confidence to make sure that you get the most out of that hunch. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And again, new customers will get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I also got to talk to you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks, they are the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars awarded in winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy football accessible to all. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players with a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily sports app. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with PrizePicks, the best place to get that real money while watching your favorite sports. And again, you can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. PrizePicks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Join now, because this holiday season, PrizePicks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in returns for Pickmas, if you will. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly when you place your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. One last time, a shout out to all of you for making Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day, and a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. These are the biggest needs for the Sun Devils as we continue working through the transfer portal. Now, we have talked about the key players who are coming back. And I'm going to list guys who could potentially be either key replacements or potentially even be starters for ASU next year. Whether that is guys that they've already added to this team through the transfer portal or their recruiting class, or it's guys on the roster. We're going to take a look at that first. Once we do that, I got top 5 needs for you for this team. Starting at quarterback, replacing Trenton Bourget. Look, Sam Levitt's the guy. We're not worried about that. We're just taking a look at the backup spot. That's either Jeff Sims or Michael Tolson. Potentially Cam Dyer. We will see what happens when they give him his official position. Running back's going to be tough. How are you replacing Cam Skattebo? You're also losing to Carlos Brooks. Don't forget that one, who was a key backup for the team. But he was not the backup. That was Kyson Brown. Kyson Brown will be replacing Cam Skattebo. Get ready for the breakout year. I am all about Kyson Brown. I have previously said he is a next-level player. He's going to have a big year. He's got backup, too. Raleek Brown, a former 5-star player, didn't see him much this year due to injury. He has experience at wide receiver on top of running back. He will be your primary pass catcher. That might be able to help separate Kyson Brown and Raleek Brown to replace Cam Skattebo as a whole. Jason Brown will be there. Alton McCaskill will be there as well. It's a deep running back room. Wide receiver. There's a lot to replace. Again, we talked about Troy O'Mary. We talked about Melcon Stovall, Jake Smith, and Xavier Guillory are all going to be gone next year. Right now, you got Malik McLean and Noble Johnson. That's it. You also lost Caleb Black, and you lost Corbin Hendricks to the transfer portal. That is 6 receivers that are gone for various reasons. You've got 2 guys to step up right now. Jordyn Tyson is back. I don't know what your plan is. I do know that this is a big need for the remainder of the transfer portal. I said at the top of the show, it's your biggest need. And again, when we highlight the biggest needs, it's going to be number 1. Tight end, you just got to place Marqueston Douglas. Shimama Taylor's back. You got your 2 4-stars. You got AJ Aya or AJ Ia, and you've got Jaden Fortier. You're good. At offensive tackle, you got to replace Maxi Yoniker and Emmett Bully. You've got Bram Walden, who has been banged up through his 2 years at ASU, but when he's on the field, he's good. Even behind him, Jalen Clem is there. He's got inside and outside versatility. You've got Champ Westbrooks, friend of the podcast, and someone who has been bulking this throughout this year to be able to get to that point where he is heavy enough to man the outside. Very excited for him for various reasons, obviously. On the interior, you've got some big shoes to fill with Lee Fotanu gone. You do have Cade Briggs, Terrell Kim, and Sean Na'a coming back along with Kyle Scott. You should be okay. Center is going to be interesting to see what they do. But I like the depth that's there. Defense, this is tough. At the edge rusher spot, Justin Wadley will replace one of Elijah O'Neal and Prince Dorma, and Clayton Smith's on the other side. Who's your third pass rusher? Up in the air, you got young guys Albert Smith and Ramar Williams. That needs to be one of the positions they address in the transfer portal. Interior defensive line, you're replacing Jeff Clark. Zach Swanson is your replacement. He will be your third defensive tackle. He might even be your starter next to CJ Fight, but Jacob Richcon-Geika is there as well. You're set at defensive tackle. Linebacker, you got to replace Caleb McCullough. Kavion Thunderbird also entered the transfer portal. You're going to be fine because you still have your top 3 guys with Keyshawn Elliott, Zyrus Fiaseu, and Jordan Crook returning. You also have Tate Romney. I already hyped him up earlier. And you got the young kid, Martell Hughes, who was one of the top freshmen in the Big 12 this year. He's going to see a bigger role. We'll see what happens with Crew Jackson. That's still a really weird situation. We'll see what happens. Corner. You're losing LT Welsh. You're losing young guys like Keontae Bradley. You are bringing back some of your most important guys. Rather, the most important guys. With Javen Robinson and Keith Abney. Cole Martin will be your nickel. And then from there, it's going to be about the youngsters, which could be a blessing or it could be a concern depending on your stance with it. You've got 4 redshirt freshmen: Chris Johnson, Rodney Bimage, Tony Lewis and Kuba, Plas Johnson. That could be really exciting, or it could make you really nervous. I want to remind you during fall camp and spring ball that Rodney Bimage and Tony Lewis and Kuba, big time standouts for this team. Now they had an entire year to redshirt and learn under Brian Ward and Brian Carrington. I like their potential future. If you want a veteran, I wouldn't blame you. Safety, going to be tough. You're losing Shamari Simmons, who also played nickel, and you're losing Kamari Wilson. You are bringing back your 2 starters, which, again, that's a really big deal to have Miles Rouser and Xavier Alford back. Montana Warren will be there. He's someone we've been waiting to see on the field more consistently. He saw the field a little bit this year. He's been a key guy on special teams. Here's your number 3 safety. With all of that being said, these are the top needs for the Sun Devils. In order, this is my verdict. Number 1, wide receiver. I said that within the first 5 minutes of the show, and I'm saying it within the last however long we have. Wide receiver is the biggest need here for a team that, again, I anticipate is going to throw the football a lot more next year. You can't not have weapons for Sam Levitt. Jordyn Tyson is phenomenal. We saw him do the heavy lifting this year. What happens next year when teams have some tape and they go, hey, we gotta find a way to stop number 0? You'll see what happens. You need guys that are going to open up opportunities for Tyson to remain dominant. Number 2, edge rusher. You have some really important guys that are returning, for sure. But you're still going to need depth. I like Wadley and I like Clayton Smith to be your starters. What's going on behind them? It's young guys that we have not seen much, if any, from. They have got to get a veteran or 2 in the transfer portal, especially because I believe Roman Petrie entered the portal. If it wasn't him, it was one of the other guys who was a big backup for you. Roman Petrie, JP Dieter might have been one of the guys too. I don't remember which one of the 2 it was. You got to get guys there. Number 3, corner. You just need some depth. You need a veteran. I don't think you need too many guys. If you get 1 guy, I think that's perfect. But you need another veteran. Number 4, safety. You need a 3rd guy. ASU had the luxury of having 3 safeties this year, plus the depth in case something happened. You need a 3rd safety. I'm comfortable with Montana Warren, to be clear. I love him. I hyped him up as a freshman before he broke his leg. I love him. I still want another veteran back there. Number 5, offensive tackle. You should be okay at left tackle with Josh Atkins. What's going on at right tackle? Because you lose Maxi Onaker and you lose Emmett Boley, who were your rotation guys out there. Like I said, you've got options there with Bram Walden, Jalen Clem, Champ Westbrooks. You got young guys as well. I need a veteran back there. I would not like a young guy. Like, to be clear, I would prefer a senior or even a graduate player to potentially be a right tackle. Kind of honorable mention, get some more kickers. Jesus Gomez, he's definitely your starter. We don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the guys. Parker Lewis, he's out of eligibility. Carson Kiefer, Ian Hershey, they may not be back next year knowing that Gomez is taking their job. If that's the case, you only have Gomez. So bring in at least 1 more kicker. You need that competition. For the love of everything, get Noah Krinsky on this team. He just feels like a great story. And he's someone that I want him on this team. And I think after this year, the Sun Devil fans who know about Noah Krinsky are going to want him as well. Low priority. I'm just going to run through these real quick. Number 1, interior defensive line. You got 3 starters there. You're going to be fine. Number 2, linebacker. You literally do not have a need there. You could say interior defensive line, linebacker, or 1A, 1B. Number 3, tight end. Would you like another veteran? Sure. but you got 2 4-star guys to back up Shimon Mateo, you're fine. Number 4, running back. You're good. You have a great rotation of 3 guys. You have the potential of Alton McCaskill. Now, I would love another addition. We talked yesterday about adding Kanye Udo from Army, who's in the portal. That'd be phenomenal. But if you don't get Udo and you don't really get any other guys, I'm not heartbroken. Number 5, quarterback. Now, I would really like another quarterback option. I would love EJ Warner for a multitude of reasons. But if you rolled with what you had, with Sam Levitt, Jeff Sims, Michael Tolofsen, Cam Dyer, and your walk-ons, you're going to be fine. If it's one of those classic things where it's like everyone wants a good backup quarterback, but at the end of the day, if your starting quarterback goes down, your season is probably over. Unless you're Texas, where you have Arch Manning backing up Quinn Ewers. And, I mean, that's one example out of over 100 different programs. You lose your backup, you're screwed. So you can't plan for Sam Levitt to get injured. But, I mean, you got good options in case you have to pivot. What are the biggest needs for you guys? Is it wide receiver? Is it edge rusher? Is it something I didn't talk about? What position are you not worried about? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at Richie Bradshaw36. The podcast is also available at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. You'll get that update whenever we post new content. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in to make us your first listen of the day. A shout out my everydayers who are here every day. We will be back again tomorrow, as always, with any breaking news that happens for our Sun Devils. I will keep you posted on anything and everything that happens in the transfer portal, whether that's rumors, whether that's guys who are coming into the program for sure. We got basketball stuff to keep you up to date on. I will make sure you're good there. Tonight, I am recording the Big 12 squad after missing last week. That drops on Thursday. So turn on notifications for my channel, Locked On Sun Devils, and also make sure you subscribe to Locked On Big 12. Turn on notifications there. In fact, make that your second listen of the day and give Drake Toll some love. I'll catch you guys next time, and until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.